Welcome back to another episode of Mighty Are the Women. This week, I hope you're as excited as we are. We're with a bunch of amazing women, and we're gonna get some background on their experience at UW and their experience making it to the World Series and winning it all. Would you guys like to introduce yourself? We could just go in the order that I have down here. So, Tay, you're first.
My name is Taylor. I'm number 6. I graduated in 2012, and I played outfield and caught every day at practice.
My name is Jen. I wear and wore number 7. I was a shortstop for the 09 team, and from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Hello, I'm Morgan Stewart. I wore number 18, graduated in 2011, and I was a third baseman for the 2009 team.
Hello, I'm Bailey Stenson, now Bailey Gordon. I wore number 20. I played outfield, mostly right field, and I did breaking it down with Bailey for the 2009 team. I also played, but, did a lot of breaking it down with Bailey.
So the first question I have is, what made you all choose the University of Washington?
What made me choose the University of Washington? So I think I never wanted to stay home. I always wanted to get out and explore. It's more of what I've done in my adult life is get away. But UW was my last visit, and I remember sitting in the car parked behind the field with my parents, and my mom was like, okay, we're just gonna we'll talk about it afterwards. We won't make any decisions. And I just remember walking around campus and talking with Coach Tar, and I basically fell in love with her in the program. And I knew right then and there that that's where I was supposed to be. And when they offered, I just said yes, didn't even look at my parents. There was no conversation. It was what I was going to do for me. And I just knew that I couldn't have been in a better spot and to grow and learn from an incredible leader, and that's why I chose UW.
Obviously, Danielle and I were super close, so we would communicate a lot about what her experience was like at Washington and being a part of that culture and playing for Coach Tar. And I just remember always thinking man, I wish I had that. I wish I could experience that. What does that feel like? And then I just did it. I was just I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to try and just see what this is like. I'm so not one to leave in the middle of a commitment. So that was a really hard thing to accept. But I also am the type of person that if it's not feeling right, I'm not going to stay in it. So I think that gave me the confidence to take the leap of faith and try something new, and really honestly trust Danielle's what she told me it was all about. And I'm so thankful that I did, because being a part of it was the best decision I could have ever made. Because as we all know, we've taken the stuff that we've learned from her and the program for the rest of our lives. So
Washington was my first visit. I was choosing between Arizona schools and Washington. It was my first time being on a big time campus, and I was just blown away. I think that in my naive years of being 14, 15, 16 years old, I didn't even consider Washington because I just wasn't educated in schools. And when I took my first visit, walking around the campus, all the brick buildings, all the history, going to a football game, and it was a sunny, great day, and they beat UCLA. I was sold, and whether that's false advertising or not, it is okay, because I ended up in the place that I was supposed to be. Also, Coach Tar told me I was going to be a shortstop on the team, and Arizona told me I was going to play third. So I picked Washington because I was a shortstop. And I love Jen Salling, and she's a beast. So I was happy to move to third base. And that's my story.
I was very lucky to have been recruited by Washington actually through an umpire. So while I was playing for my summer ball team in California, an umpire told me that he really liked the way that I played. And he was like, you could play in the Pac-10. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, that's really nice of you. And I had never, ever, ever, ever considered a Pac-10 school. I also wanted to get away. Growing up in Washington, I was like, this is just way too close. Not that I had ever thought Washington was like something I could actually play there, honestly. I always thought like, okay, I'll just go somewhere else, go to a small Division I, somewhere middle of the country, something like that. So I never even like wrote to any Pac-10 schools. I think I wrote to Arizona State, and that was pretty much it. But the umpire in between my games, I'm breaking up. And so I was like, yeah, I guess you can go talk to Coach Tar, whoever that is. And anyway, after a couple tournaments, her and Coach Gaw came up and talked to me after New Jersey. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, I don't even know if you want me. You're just talking to me, but I want to go there. After coming on my visit, I was like, all right, this is a really beautiful place to be, and there's nowhere else I'd want to be. I want to be the small fish in the big pond and learn from the best of the best and be a part of a team that has a shot at winning a national championship. And that was the best decision I had ever made.
Describe your atmosphere at practices.
Kind of one of my favorite things was that we were competitive. I loved the music. I mean, I loved that it was just relaxed, and I never felt stressed or anything going to practice. I was super excited to get down there, and I don't know. I will always love Washington practices, and always think fondly of them.
As an educator and a teacher now, I really appreciated the fact that Coach Tar just does not like wasting time. Like, if you're not in it and you're not executing in the moment and you're just not dialed in with the pitch, like, just get out onto the next. You guys know how it is. So like, it's like, I really appreciated that because it made you feel like practice was super intentional and there was purpose behind everything that you did. Like, never one time did I ever feel like when I walked away from practice that it's like, wait, what did we just do? Like, why did we just do that? Like, what was that about? Like, it was like, there was so much intent, there was so much purpose, and everything was just like super functional. So you always left like you got better in some way, shape, or form.
I think it's really cool how you guys talk about competition and purpose behind every practice, but I also think it's cool how like nowadays we have all this cool technology that we get to use at like our disposal. And for us to compete using the flight scope and using the blast and using all this technology, I think it adds like that cool extra level, but she still carries that same intention of like it hasn't changed. Like, the game hasn't changed, it's still the same, but we have all these cool tools to use, but like the competition and the purpose behind it is still the same.
You guys won the World Series in 2009, which is amazing. And was there any adversity that you guys faced in that 2009 season?
We faced a little adversity, like inner circle adversity, just kind of some playing time issues, some frustrations over like really minuscule things that were so not important, like being thrown out at first, and then having a really negative reaction to that. And so our team we all had this huge turning point. It was at Oregon State, and it was like, I think we were maybe midway through Pac-10s. So our team, we had like a little meeting, just like a few people, and basically it was like, hey, you've got to kind of get over yourself. Like kind of a whole thing. Like, you play this role, you play this role, you play this role. And once kind of as a collective group, we accepted that, I think that was a huge turning point. And not everybody was involved in that, and not everybody knows necessarily maybe that even happened. But I know that was a turning point in our team's momentum and kind of vibe. I mean, we were all like, yes, I have that person's back. It was no longer like, oh, I wish I was playing that position, or I wish that I was doing this, or I wish I was doing that. It was, you were cheering that person on, and it was more so about the good of the group versus like personal accolades or personal batting averages and at bats and things like that. So I thought personally that was a huge turning point for our team to kind of overcome some selfish tendencies and be a little bit more selfless.
I think too, going off of that, as somebody who came in April, like officially April 1st, that could have been like really nasty for a team culture, just to immerse somebody coming in and then playing a position that somebody completely owned before I was there. So I think one, it speaks a lot to how Morgan specifically was as a teammate to me, in like just completely owning, like becoming a third baseman and doing what was best for the team and essentially doing what was asked. Like there was never any, and I never felt any like animosity with Morgan or nothing. In fact, we were like so close, which I thought was really unique. And then feeling like I was welcomed in the middle by the team was really cool. So it just told me like how strong the culture was even before I got there, and just the lines of communication that were going on like prior to me arriving, and just everybody embracing the fact that this new person's coming to our culture in the middle of the season, and we're going to roll with it, and we're going to figure it out, and we're still going to, focus on winning a national championship. And then credit to Morgan, because she totally took on a new role and just did it with so much grace, and just literally, you do what's best for the team. We all know that. That's something that we preach in our culture, and she just completely owned it.
For me, I grew up in Washington, so I didn't really understand the College World Series. I was so naive to the fact of what we were accomplishing. Like being 30 now, I can look back and be like, holy crap. But in the moment, it was just like another game. And I think freshman year, I really learned that your role is going to change every day. It's going to change at practice. It's going to change from series to series. And you just have to like be thankful that day that you have a role. And I'm super grateful for that lesson. And I think everyone learns it maybe sometimes later in their career, earlier in their career. But it's just super important. And I feel like my role was to Bailey too, just get the team going. Like our energy needed to be at its peak at the right moment every time. And so it's like, okay, we need cheers, we need energy, like you need to get your ass slapped. Like, I don't know what we need. We got to figure it out.
I want to hear Morgan's take on what Jen was saying before that. How did you transition into that role? What were you thinking? How did you prepare for that?
Yeah, it's a good question. To what Jen said is we were really, really prepared going into the whole transition into Jen coming, right? So I had multiple conversations with Coach Tar, not because of any other reason besides just transparency of communication. And I think that is a key in any relationship, any team atmosphere is like, all right, here's what's happening. You are allowed to feel however you want to feel. How can I help you understand? And this is what we need from you. Where are you at? And I don't know, let's go. I mean, we're going to have the best left side in the country. So why not?
What pushed you through your not perfect season? What made you believe that you guys could win this?
I think things happen for a reason. In the beginning of that 2009 season, we were ranked 13th, I think. We had it in our mind that we were so good, no one was going to tell us otherwise. And that was the difference maker, was what we believed. It didn't really matter what other people thought.
The 2008 season was such a year. We had a couple seniors redshirt. That was the year Danielle went to the Olympics. We had a bunch of fresh faces that had really not had a lot of playing time. I think maybe my freshman year, I think I had maybe 9 at-bats. I had hurt myself early on in the year, but I had 9 at-bats, and then I was the leadoff hitter all of 2008. So it was just kind of really, what a turning point. So a lot of people who didn't get a ton of playing time in 2007, which was a great team, also they really stepped up in 2008. And got a ton of playing time. It was one of those seasons where without that experience and without the opportunity for 2008 to help build some players and help them get those at bats, get that experience in the Pac-10, just really know what it's like to win. And even though it wasn't our best season, that is why we felt so confident going into 09, bringing back some seriously good players.
Okay, so you're at the World Series. Was there a specific turning point or something that stood out that happened where you realized that you guys were going to win this?
The Georgia game when Nakia hit 3 jacks in one game, like that's like unheard of. That was crazy.
It's just like a mindset. And I think that when you're so locked in and you have no doubts, and no matter what is thrown at you, you're going to succeed, it changes everything.
Tay, that's such a good point. Just because like when you're in that moment on the high, like the biggest stage of your softball career, the first thing that you tap into is mental performance. Like how much we worked the mental game was like, it was a lot, but it's so important because you got to be able to work pitch to pitch, right? Like if you don't work pitch to pitch and on the biggest stage, things just pass you by and you lose control, right?
The vibe, like in the dugout, it was very rare to ever see on the dugout or on the field, hanging heads or like negative feelings. Like it was we were putting all of the positive vibes out there and like whatever way, shape, or form, but we did it as a group. So it was never like, you never had to pull somebody else along. Like everybody knew like, okay, we are putting all of our energy and all of our focus into this pitch. You know, we just knew we could trust each other. And I think that was maybe one of my favorite things. And I mean, we knew.
So you guys made it. You had that opportunity to win the last game played in Oklahoma City. How are you guys feeling going into the game?
Since this UMass game keeps getting like brought up on social media and stuff, I think watching that game and seeing the minutes tick by and the hours, I think because of that, this is my perspective, is like we made it through that. Danielle made it through that. Like we found a way in that. Brandish Ballschmitter, she was good. And I don't think we saw anybody, and I'm not like trying to say that none of the pitchers were as good as her. Maybe they were, but like we had a hard fight to get there. And I think that that's a really cool thing and that's why I think alumni get super fired up when the current team even has struggles or wins a really tough game, is because we know that all of those are just like, hay in the barn, right? Like, because you guys did this, just imagine how easy it's going to be when you get down the road and you feel that pressure and your backs are up against the wall. That what was so special about that UMass game, and sometimes it gets lost in translation, we had just lost. And then right away, Danielle gets back on the mound and we play again. And so I think in terms of the mindset there and how we were able to win the last game, it was like, oh, well, we're pretty well rested. I don't think our backs are up against the wall. I get that. We won game 1 of Florida, obviously. And then game 2, even though you watch that game on ESPN, watching that game and seeing that it is kind of like, oh shoot, their first hitter like hits a triple and then they score in that first inning. If you pan to our dugout, nobody's stressed. It's like, we've done this before. It's pretty cool to see.
To be completely transparent and honest, like, nerves are so normal. Like to say that we weren't like, or to say that I wasn't nervous before the national championship, that's a complete lie, right? So the goal is to like, how are you able to control your nerves and how are you able to stay composed in the moment?
One of my favorite quotes, and I can't remember if it was Coach Tar or Ken Revizza, I'm pretty sure it's Coach Tar, but she had said pre-pitch preparation prevents piss poor performance. And she may have said that to you guys, but I say that all the time in my life. Whenever I'm preparing for anything, like even I did a presentation with the package deal and I was like, all right, P, like, you know, whatever. I was just like, all right, you know, like I got to make sure I'm prepared. And that's like probably the biggest thing that I remember taking away is just like totally what you prepare for, you're ready for. And I mean, like, obviously there's a lot out of your control there, But if you feel confident in your preparation, I mean, totally, you're able to kind of get through that.
How do you guys feel Washington softball separates itself from other programs?
I feel like what makes us so special is just the culture and the love we have for each other. I think the 3 other teammates that I have sitting right here, these are my best friends and the people that pick me up off the floor when I'm at my absolute worst, and are also there to celebrate me when I'm at my absolute high, and we are always there for each other. And I think that there's such a sisterhood and a strong culture here that there's nothing that compares to it. I think what Coach Tara and Coach Wilson built here is, I mean, I feel like I have been a part of the best thing that the world has to offer, and I feel so lucky that I can carry those values and traditions and all the things that she instills in us. It doesn't leave you when you graduate and you no longer get to go to practice and you no longer are playing games. Like, the values and the preparation and the process and the confidence and the toughness and the selfless and accountable and Husky Fever, it is like, it exudes your whole life. And like how you live your life as an adult is going to be, yes, because of your parents and your dinner table at home, but because of how Coach Tar raises us to be strong as women.
Amen to that. The one thing I hear a lot about is how much Washington athletes love softball. Like, when people watch us play, they see the pride and they see the passion and they see like just straight up being students of the game, right? Like, you guys are always smiling, you're jumping around, you got energy, your chests are big, like the confidence, just that is so like noticeable to people that are watching, and it makes people want to be a part of it. And it makes me proud to hear that that's what people say about our program. Because it's true. Like, people that come to Washington love softball. And if you don't, then maybe it's not the place for you. And then you find that out really, really quick.
You guys are so amazing. Just piggybacking off of our last episode, you guys carry the most amazing presence with you wherever you go, and we can see that. And Ari and Emma and I look up to you guys so much, and everyone on our team does too, and you guys are so special. You always hold such a huge part of.
That is so sweet to hear you say that, because it's just like, I don't know, it makes you feel really cool. And because we like look up to you guys too. I was texting Morgan after she shared some of the UMass clips, and I watched like just, I don't know, 20 minutes of that game, but I don't really need to rewatch it because I remember a lot of that game. And I remember that being a really tough season for me, and I was 20. I was playing all sorts of roles. I mean, I never knew what my role was going to be that day. I didn't know if I was starting. I didn't know if I was going to come in. I didn't know where I was going to be game to game. No idea. And that was probably one of the hardest years of my life, in terms of just up and down roller coaster. And I think that I personally think that as a 20-year-old, I'm shocked at how I was able to kind of get through it. But if I could tell myself anything, it's really just like to breathe. I mean, I wish I would have done maybe a little bit more of that. And that it's not like that big a deal. You know, it's not like there is more. So just like, don't put so much into just that one thing. So I think that's probably what I would take away, is just like breathe and kind of find your way through it. And that's not like, there's more to it, I guess.
I think what I would tell myself is that these are transitional years, no matter how much of an adult you feel like, and no matter how much responsibility is put on you and responsibility of your teammates that are depending on you. In and out of our sport, we're still growing up and we're learning so much. So like, give yourself a lot of grace. You are not perfect, no matter how much you think of yourself as perfect. And I don't know, be a good teammate in different ways than you think are the normal ways, right? Give grace to the people around you that are figuring it out. Like, why do we have these perfectionist expectations of people that are 20 years old. Like, so that's what I would say. I like cool it, relax, take a chill pill to my 20-year-old self, and have fun.
I felt like I did a really great job of going above and beyond as a student athlete. I was pretty proud of like how I went about my process, like just with more work, extra. Working with Coach Tar, extra cardio, that kind of stuff. But when I was 20, that was the Olympic year. And it's actually funny that you're asking this question right now, because I've been thinking a lot about this lately as we've moved through this process, doing this whole thing another time. And looking back, throughout my Olympic journey, I wish I would have specifically took more initiative and more ownership of what that looked like. I think I felt like I just kind of did enough. And I wish I would have done more, and specifically like reached out more to the veterans, reached out more to the coaching staff, reached out more to people that could help me figure it out. Because I feel like I just did it. Like I was, just being naturally gifted, I guess, or whatever. Like I just did enough that year, and I wish I would have done a whole heck of a lot more. So that's definitely like, especially right now, we don't have 20-year-olds on our team right now, but we do have, some girls that are trying to figure out their process. So that's for sure my biggest way to be able to share my experience with them is that, lean on us who have been in your shoes, who wish we could have done it a little bit differently. So just ask questions, take initiative, take ownership, and always be a student, right? Always find ways to learn, whether it's in life or in softball.
I think what I wish I could tell my 20-year-old self is to be more vulnerable, and to be more honest and open with how I'm feeling and what's going on in between my ears. I think that we're taught to be pretty tough, which is, it's good, it's great to be tough, but I think the more vulnerable you can be and the more honest you can be about what you're feeling, the better you're going to get, because you're actually putting yourself in a position to like push beyond where you're stuck. And if you're not vulnerable, you're going to stay there. And it's not that there's such a difference between vulnerability and weakness, but I think that being 30 and being at harder times in my life now than I was at 20, it's just like, damn, like the past 10 years, I would just have approached a lot differently if I was more vulnerable then.
So I just wanted to thank you all for being so willing to jump on this Zoom call with us. It means a lot to all of us, not only us, but like the entire team and then everybody watching this. I know they're super excited to hear from all of you. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you all for watching.
Go Dogs.
It was super cool hearing from all of them and how like our culture is still like so similar to the way it is now. Like it's always been the same. Like we have the same core values from how you do everything, or how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's something they instill in us today. And it's crazy to see like how strong of women they are and how apparent it is just listening to them talk.
I think like adding on that, the way that they carry themselves is so amazing. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but they're some of the coolest people I think I've ever talked to, just going through that and asking them those awesome questions, and their detailed responses and how much they truly like care about the program is pretty amazing. So
literally so many good nuggets where you could just like take those things like out of Coach Tar's mouth or anyone's mouth, like on our current team. Like those are things that we literally talk about every day and mean so much to us. And they played like almost 10 years ago. And so like those things are still like in their memory every day. I just like, it's so cool to think about.
I think I'm excited to be like an adult now and like carry those things with me too. It's going to be cool to see like how I use things that we are learning today into our careers. And notice like all of those women, they work with people. Like they have jobs with people, they teach, they coach, they do amazing work no matter what they do. And they take everything that they've learned and use it and apply it and just create such an awesome atmosphere for themselves and for the people around them. So that's super awesome.
I had a note on a different note. Something that they were talking about is being like locked in every pitch, and how that was like still something that they think of when they look back. And I was thinking about how like incredibly hard that actually is. We talk about it all the time, how hard it is to stay locked into however many thousands of pitches that we see. And so I thought it was cool that they talked about that, and like just want to emphasize for people who maybe don't know that are listening how incredibly hard that is and how like enduring it is to go through times like that. So yeah.
Another thing I loved was just like how our first episode went. As soon as the call started, how excited they were to see each other. And I feel like us 10 years from now, however long it is when something like this happens to us, we feel the exact same way. Like we instill this sisterhood, like we're sisters. Like I think that's so awesome. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.